And let's go on to the next one, the one that left you very confused, probably.
This is probably maybe actually not as confusing as some of the other questions. But yeah, so this is what is the actual name of this style match? A ladder match?
So this was a tag team ladder match.
Calling it the tag team right there, that's what throws me off, because this was not. They don't.
Right. So
I don't know if they were supposed to be tagging, but
there is no tagging in a ladder match. However, there was a tag in the match, but it was a comedy spot, right? Yeah. But the crowd ate that shit up. This is why I said this should have been the opening match, because this one had the crowd going really loud in some spots, and especially that tag with R-Truth. But we'll talk about it.
I'll say the only reason I might disagree with you on that is because I thought the very first intro from DIY was one of the lamest things I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, but see, that's the entrances. That's what I said. There's only a handful of entrances that were really good, and not one of these tag teams had an entrance that made me go like, yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's probably fair.
But it makes sense because you're introducing 6 teams.
And it's also confusing because some of them have team names and some of them don't. You would think they'd come up with a team name just for at least that one fight or something, but I don't know.
It just, some tag teams, there's just a natural team name, and some there's like, listen, they've been paired together. They've been forced to work together backstage. And you just don't really have a name for them, right? Like in this one, you had The New Day. You had DIY, right? Those are natural names. You have Awesome Truth.
But then you Awesome Team.
No, Awesome Truth.
Okay.
Was their name. Yes, sir. And that's because Miz, the Miz, his whole thing is, I'm the Miz and I'm awesome. And then Truth part of that comes from R-Truth, right? So yeah.
And then there's the guy who lost to McAfee a long time ago. I liked his little Eagles bit on his jacket. That was cool. And we'll see more of that throughout the night. I don't know what it is. It said fly something fly. I couldn't read it fast enough, but
okay.
It might have just been theory. It might have been fly theory fly.
Maybe, yeah.
But I thought that was cool. I liked that was the beginning of some Eagles Philadelphia type references, and I like that they do that. That's a good bit.
You gotta pander when you can.
I thought the Judgment Day team's intro, maybe just because it was compared to the other couple before it, I was like, now this is my kind of wrestling. Scary guy in a mask, heavy rock.
Yeah, and they definitely had the best entrance of all the teams, but it makes sense because they're also your defending champions. So it makes sense to give them that like
song is just
sense
cooler.
Of importance. That too.
Was it Awesome Truth? Were they like trying to rap while they went down the stage?
Yeah, so Ron the Truth Killings, that's the name of R-Truth, like that's his real name, like Ron Killings, R-Truth. His whole gimmick, prior to being WWE, he would rap, right? He would rap to the stage, he'd rap his own entrance song, his own music.
It's not a terrible bit. I just didn't think it worked in this setting, at least. It didn't work for me, I should say.
Yeah, no, people eat his shit up. So this is one of those ones where, like, yeah, if you've been around the WWE a long time, you love when R-Truth does this, and it's funny that the Miz partakes in it because he's just so cheesy. So it's one of those things that's so bad it's good.
Now let me look at my notes here, because this might have been something that happened later, and I was thinking it happened here. Was this the one where they like didn't play someone's intro at the right time?
I don't believe that was
even
the
case. The commentators commented on it. New Catch Republic, were they in this fight?
Yes, New Catch Republic.
Yeah, so they came out and they still had the Awesome Truth stuff playing in the background behind them, and even the announcers are like, "Oh, I guess these guys don't have a song this time," and then all of a sudden it kicks off.
Yeah, and that's some timing issues definitely from the production sense, but I didn't see that part just because I wasn't paying attention to their entrance, because I'm like, yeah, they're not winning.
Yeah, and I was hyper focused on a lot of stuff, trying to make sure I caught as much as I could here, and I thought that was one of the few really small things that caught me. I thought it was mostly the reason I wrote it down was because the announcers actually brought it up like while it was happening, and I would have thought they'd ignore that kind of thing. But yeah. The funniest,
in years past, probably. But
The funniest thing about this style of fight is when they're all in the ring and the bell goes off, and it's just this fucking mob. It's so funny to see.
Oh, dude, the chaos. This is a chaotic match, and from start to finish, it was absolutely chaotic. I loved it.
It's fun. It's very fun.
This was probably the most fun match. Not the best one, but the most fun match.
I'll give you that.
Especially when it came to a lot of the high spots, the more dangerous things that they did. Oh my god, man! There was a moment where I believe it was Grayson Waller gets slammed through a ladder.
Yeah,
and they showed a replay of his face just like as he's falling, bracing himself for the fall, and then he had this guttural yell of pain. Like he wasn't selling, he wasn't acting. That shit was real. You know that shit hurt him for real when he fell through that ladder. And if for anybody who missed it, the ladder snapped in half, and you could see the little pink adhesive that keeps the metal together.
Whatever the inside of the ladder is, are they just hollow? I'm not really sure.
No, they're not hollow. Those are legit real ladders, man. They're
definitely
not props.
They're definitely not legit real ladders, but we can
they are
later.
they're real ladders. They may not be very expensive ladders, but they are real ladders.
And this
now you may be talking about where they bent a ladder. I don't know if you saw that.
Well, I saw when the ladder was like open and exposed. That's not what the inside of a ladder looks like.
Oh well, maybe that one not in particular, but
yeah, I mean, who knows? It's all. I mean, it's all super production, so they might have a specific one that they use just for that, probably.
Yeah.
But what I would say is
they might have to hollow out some of them just because, like I said, like we saw, people are going through that. Stuff.
I don't mean that. Yeah, I don't mean that to say it still wouldn't hurt. I just mean like if it's a solid ladder, then there's gonna be a lot more injury going on. But one thing I thought was kind of interesting was if this wasn't, I think it might be a safety thing. Because every time they would get someone off a ladder, no one ever did what I would think you would do, which is just pull the bottom of the ladder out. Because I think that might just be too dangerous.
No, absolutely.
So I was watching, I was like, that would be the best move when someone's up on high. Just slam them down to the ground.
Absolutely. But in this case, it is safety. There's a lot of dangerous. There's a lot of moving parts.
It was just one thing I thought about.
You definitely saw, though, in one instance where the referees on the ringside were freaking out once they noticed that a ladder was bent, and they were trying very hard to get the attention of Damian Priest. It's like, hey man, switch that fucking ladder out.
Okay,
switch
so
that
I
ladder
did write
out.
this. I was like, why are the refs? I wrote down, why were refs trying to slow down Priest? Because like a ref was grabbing his leg, and I was like, what is going on here? Like, is he ahead of where he's supposed to be? I don't know. That makes sense.
And then once he noticed that the ladder was bent, and he obviously threw that away. And you even saw R-Truth kind of break character for a second by handing Damian Priest the ladder, and then Damian kind of kicked him off the side. I like the way
the announcers played that off of like, oh, he's just confused.
He's just
which
confused.
Was a lot of that fight was the announcer saying these guys don't actually know what's going on, like the tag that we saw.
Oh yeah, no, that was you're new to R-Truth. For those who are not, this was peak R-Truth, okay? Because his whole bit is that he's delusional, right?
Okay.
Absolutely delusional in every sense. One of the longest running jokes or running gags regarding R-Truth is that John Cena is his childhood hero. He's older than John Cena by many years.
Was he the one who did the
John Cena moves?
Okay.
Yeah. He is now part of his shtick now is that he will do, as an homage to his childhood hero John Cena, he will do what is known as John Cena's 5 move of dooms, which is shoulder tackle, you can see me 5-knuckle shuffle, and then a spin out, shoulder tackle, spin out powerbomb, you can't see me, and then he does what used to be known as the FU is now called the attitude adjustment. Boom.
I did think that makes sense now that you say that he's been doing that for a while. Because I was like, how did the crowd know to react to the "you can't see me" that fast? I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean, they've seen anytime you see the hand pop up in the air, like with the high five symbol, you just know it's gonna be a "you can't see me" reference.
And I was confused when they started setting up all the tables. I was like, and no one's even using them. And then all of a sudden, it pays off with this whoever JD McDonough is, who
JD McDonough, yeah, he's part of the Judgement Day. Yeah, so the whole thing, he's part of Judgment Day, and he's like, hey, I got to make sure my team retains one of their titles, and which we haven't even talked about the stipulation, which was a little weird.
Yeah, this
but
is another confusing bit about how titles work for me.
Right. So let's put a little pause on the JD McDonough going through the tables thing.
Tell me the objective of this match.
The objective of this match. So, for those new to this, or maybe for who are in Patrick's camp of like, hey, first time, or I'm just getting into it, I haven't been keeping up with the product. Why were the titles separate, right? In storyline, it doesn't really make a whole ton of sense, right? But to us, outside of storyline, WWE has had a problem for a little bit now, is that they have such a good quality tag team division, and they only have one set of belts. Now you see like the blue and red belts that the wrestlers are carrying, Judgment Day's carrying. Those belts were unified, so they are known as the Undisputed Tag Team Champions. But because there's been a surge in the tag team divisions lately, Raw needs a champion, SmackDown needs a champion, because Judgment Day was essentially pulling double duty with their main focus being Raw and occasionally coming onto SmackDown. So what's your greatest solution? You separate the belts, and now you're back to having a Raw champion and a SmackDown champion. So the stipulation in this match was the match does not end until both sets of belts have been taken down. So if you want to be the SmackDown champions, you get the SmackDown championship belts, which Team A-Town Down Under did, which is Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. And then The Miz and R-Truth, Awesome Truth, took down the Raw championships. So they are now the new Raw champions, and then SmackDown champions are A-Town Down Under. And you've now fixed your problem of having you now have fixed your problem of like, we have too many teams and not enough belts. Well, now you have enough belts for all the teams.
And so then every year at WrestleMania, they can pretty much try to, depending on how things set up, they might be able to unify them at WrestleMania.
Yeah, especially like they'll probably be able to do that every 5-10 years or something. Because every once in a while the belts do get unified and then they get split up again. So yeah.
I lost you there for a second.
Yeah.
No, that, like I said, it is entertaining as hell. There's a lot going on. It's tough to actually keep up with to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the crowd, it's impossible to really focus in on one particular thing. But that's the beauty of just watching it at home on a live stream. It's like, let's just let the camera do the work for us. Just you show me which team I need to be paying attention to.
And having the announcers really helps.
Oh yes. And of course, in these matches, of course, you're gonna have people laying down on the side of the ring a lot.
Yeah.
It is basically
funny to watch guys casually roll themselves off whenever they're down.
Yeah, and of course, because there's just so many moving parts, everybody needs to get their spot, their moment in, and we saw that. Like one of my favorite spots in that match, besides the falling through the ladder and the table spot with JD McDonough, you had Tyler Bate, who is known as the big strong boy, because he is 5'7" and he is just fucking absolutely ridiculously strong for a guy his size. He got Finn Balor up. Finn Balor was holding the ladder, and he just spun him around like a little helicopter.
I was like, how heavy are these ladders, or is he like playing it to make it? Because I mean, obviously he's got another guy on him too, but I also didn't realize he was 5'7", so that makes a big difference. Trying to get the momentum of something that wide to spin around like that. That was that was really cool to see.
That's a cool spot, and he is freakishly strong. You look up some Tyler Bate airplane spin highlights on YouTube just to see he lifts up some very heavy men, and it's just impressive. Yeah, but that was a great spot. Honestly, going into this match, it was really difficult to know like who was going to win, because you usually have a sense of like who's most likely to win a match at WrestleMania, even if they surprise you, right? But when you have this kind of a match where there wasn't a big time storyline going in, there was one storyline going in, and it was R-Truth got kicked out of the Judgment Day, even though he was never officially part of Judgment Day. Again, this is adding to his whole delusional bit. He deluded himself into thinking he was part of Judgment Day.
So then they had to kick him out.
So then they had to physically kick him out multiple times until he got the picture. and Miz comes back, and they were a tag team back in 2011, and they're like, we gotta be champions. We were never champions. So there was that storyline. But for the SmackDown Championships, there really was nothing there. I was shocked a little bit by Austin Theory and Grayson Waller winning, because they've just been getting their ass kicked for months now as a group, and kind of serving as the lackeys for Logan Paul. So seeing them win, I'm like, okay, not what I expected, but also
it makes sense to me that if they're part of Logan Paul's tree, the WWE wants to do anything they can to keep pushing him forward. So having some quote unquote legitimacy to his boys would probably be a good idea.
Definitely. And that makes me believe that tonight Logan Paul will walk away United States champion, which honestly, right call.
Confusing. It's the right call. Again, confusing because there's all these better wrestlers out there. So that's why I get confused. Like, what is the US champion versus like another? Well, like what title does Roman Reigns currently hold?
He holds the WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship. Now, this belt might, if Cody Rhodes wins this belt, it may just become the WWE Heavyweight Championship, right? And then you have the World Heavyweight Champion. You have a distinction, right? One is you are representing the lineage of WWE's championship belt. And then the one that Seth Rollins has, the lineage of that one, the big gold belt, as it's like lovingly known by a lot of hardcore wrestling fans, that one has its own lineage away from WWE, prior to WWE. So you now have two recognized heavyweight champions in your company. So then, the United States Championship
fits in,
yeah. So the United States Championship and the Intercontinental Championship, these are belts meant to be kind of like, all right, you're not in the main event picture, main event being the heavyweight championship picture. You want a title for your wrestlers to chase after. And the more you get these legitimate guys like Randy Orton and Kevin Owens chasing after a belt like the United States Championship that's held by Logan Paul, you give legitimacy to a guy like Logan Paul, who's not a full-time wrestler, but is very talented for what he is asked to do. And, of course, the other belt as well for the Intercontinental belt. But just to stay focused on the U.S. belt, the U.S. belt has a rich history of being like a mid-card title. So
got it. Okay, so it's pretty much like calling it a lightweight, even though that's because they're not actually doing it by weight.
Yeah, it's not by weight class. It's just like it's just its own division. Think of it as its own, having its own division in WWE.
Like winning the in-season tournament. I don't know.
With more prestige. Significantly more prestige.
Yeah, it's been around longer. Probably not a good comp for it in most sports.
I would think of it like this. Like you have your in UEFA, right? You have like your Champions League, right? But then because you get all these clubs from different leagues fighting for one prize, right? Well, these leagues have their own big prize, right? Think of it like that. Like your heavyweight championship and your WWE championship, that's your Champions League, and then your Intercontinental and US, those are their own things as well. So that's like your Premier Cup or your English Premier Cup type thing.
Well, we did see Awesome Truth and Waller Theory walk away with separate belts there.
And I think those were the right calls to make. Judgment Day looks like they're going to be on the verge of disbanding soon. If it plays out the way that I think it should play out, but that's a thought to expound upon on another episode. We're gonna stay focused on WrestleMania. Well, then any final thoughts that you have on this match?
Not really. Like I said, it was wild. It was entertaining, but especially having no context going in or anything, it is confusing as hell.
Yeah, the story to the build up to this one was lackluster, to say the least, as an overall whole, like holistic picture of the thing. But the end result was just so much fun. So to me, it's like, all right, this was a fun match. It didn't need to be anything more than what it was, and I'm happy for it. This was one of my this is near my top 3 favorite. This is definitely my top 3 favorite matches of the night.
Interesting.